welcome to our Crazy Life Scotland. My name's Fiona and this is my question and answer video. So a couple of months ago I put posts out there and asked at the end of my videos if you had any questions for me, and a good few of you have sent in some really good questions, so I'm looking forward to filming this. I haven't thought about the questions too much. I wrote them down and then tried to forget about it because I want them to be quite like impulsive and spontaneous, and that way I know I'm not saying that I'm going to lie, but you know how the first thing that comes into your mind is usually the right thing, but if you overthink things you're like, oh, maybe it's not that. I know what I mean. Hopefully you do as well. I'm hoping the lighting's okay because I don't want to put the ring light on. I'm going to have to put my glasses on so that I can see the questions. I've written them all down, and when the ring light's on I get a glare. I look like something off the Smiler at Alton Towers. So I'm keeping the ring light off. Hopefully you can see me and hear me okay. Let's get into it. Right, so in no particular order, I've always wanted to say that. Diamond Peta, who is a lovely lady from Australia, has asked me, is there a craft I've always wanted to try but haven't? I think I've probably tried my hand at most things and I'm rubbish at most things. I've found a few things that I really enjoy doing and I'm not too bad at. One thing that I have wanted to try and just haven't is sewing, as in with a sewing machine, embroidery, that sort of thing, because I remember trying it at school and I was hopeless, and I remember people laughing at me because it was so hopeless. And when you're that age, it hurts. I'm talking primary school. And nobody in my family is really a sewer. So I would say that's probably one thing that I would have liked to try, but I've got so much going on now that I'm not going to bother. So yes, sewing is the one thing that I've not tried, and I have wanted to, but I'm going to give it a miss. I've got enough going on. She also asked, what books do I like to read? Well, I don't read books as such. I listen to them. My favourite app is Audible, and it's like a subscription service that you can get credits to get so many books a month, and I listen to books. The main reason for that was always that if I read a book I would fall asleep. I'd get a couple of pages in and it relaxes me so much I would fall asleep. But more recently it's because I like to do other things while I'm listening to books. So I like to lie in my bed and listen to a book and play the game on my iPad, or I'll listen to my book while I'm doing bits of housework, that sort of thing. So that's not actually answered the question. My favourite type used to be like the chick lit, funny romance, you know how it's going to end, run-of-the-mill kind of stories, love them. The likes of Millie Johnson, always loved Millie Johnson as an author. And I still do listen to some of those books, but more recently, I would say my favourite have been like crime series. I like books that have got quite a few in the series and you get to know the characters, like a detective and his sidekick. You know, it's a different thing going on every different book, but you're finding out more about the characters as well, so I like that. So just now, crime series, and especially ones that there's like 3 or 4 books in a series, and I'll read the whole series at once. Not at once, but you know what I mean. I won't go on to something else until I finish the series. The only thing that does annoy me about that is if I finish a book and know that there's another one coming but it's not out yet, I get frustrated. And so that was from Diamond Peta, but Kathy, who's Clover Thistles here on YouTube, has also asked me what books I like to read, so that's answered both of you. Right, Shirley, I'm not sure how to pronounce your surname, Shirley. Is it Mogach? I don't know. And my lovely friend Jill, who is Jill's Frills and Some Witchy Skills here on YouTube. Both of them comment on my videos a lot. I was pleased to get a question from them, which was, where did Jack and I first meet and where was our first date? Well, Jack and I first met way back in the year 2000, and I had been at my auntie's house. We actually had psychic in, and she was doing a reading for all of us, and that was supposed to be it. I was meant to be going straight home after that, so I was still in my work clothes. I'd been working, but we decided we would hit the town. So we went into Falkirk and went into one of my favourite pubs at the time, which was the Calendar Arms. I don't know if it's still there. And I loved it there because they did karaoke. So we went in there and there was music playing and there was dancing, but by the time I got in there, my Auntie Mary was already dancing and winding up this guy, and I was like, I need to save him from her because she's lovely, but she was a right man-eater back then. So I wheedled my way in, told her to bugger off, and started talking to him, and it was Jack. And we danced for a while, and he walked me to the taxi later on, and we chatted, we exchanged phone numbers, and we texted quite a lot after that. So after texting back and forward quite a few times, we plucked up the courage to meet each other, and I picked him up because he didn't drive at the time. He was living in Grangemouth. I picked him up, and I was nervous because it had been a good week or so, and I thought, what if I can't remember what he looks like? I had an idea in my head what he looked like, but I wasn't sure. So when I saw a guy walking over, I was like, yeah, it's definitely him. And he came over, and he actually came to the driver's side first and said, hi, I'm Jack. And I was like, oh, hiya. Right, so he got in. He later admitted to me that when I was texting him the next day after we first met, he couldn't remember me. He had been that drunk, he couldn't remember who I was. But just through chatting and things on text, he thought, okay, I'm going to go and meet this girl. Hello, Maury. So that's why he came to the window first, because he wasn't sure if I was the right person or not. But I didn't know that at this point. We went through to Stirling, and it was an Irish pub. I think it was O'Neill's. It was called then, I don't know what it is now. We sat in there, we had a couple of drinks. I had soft drinks because I was driving. I think he maybe did as well. And then we went to a lovely point called the Viewpoint in Stirling, and it's quite high up in the hills, and you get a lovely view. And we sat there chatting, nothing happened, we were just chatting. And we just built up a friendship like that. Where I worked at the time, it was the child support agency right beside Calendar Park. So he would meet me after work quite a few times, and we would go for a wander around Calendar Park. I could walk then. So that is the sort of things that that we did to really get to know each other before anything actually happened between us. Next question is from Susan Davey, and she says, I always had dogs. Have I always wanted big dogs and more than one? If you're new here, you might not realise we have got 4 dogs, and one of them is a Caucasian Shepherd who is huge. And before him we had Ranach, who was a Leonberger and was also huge. So yeah, we are a big dog family. We've got a Lurcher as well and a Trailhound. So yeah, we are a big dog family. When I was growing up, I didn't have dogs because our lifestyle wasn't right for dogs. My dad was never a huge dog fan. My first pet was a gerbil. Well, I had 2 gerbils, and then that progressed to a cat. And I basically had cats growing up throughout my life, and I even had cats when I met Jack. And it was Jack that I've always loved dogs, but I had never really considered owning one. And Jack had always had a dog, so he'd said to me, you know, will we get a dog? And that's how we ended up doing it. First of all, we got a Siberian Husky called Lubo, and because yes, it was the time that Lubo Moravchik was leaving Celtic. Then we bred him and had his puppy Storm, and we've just had loads of dogs from then on. Susan also asked, what do I think of Edinburgh? Not the biggest fan, I have to say. I'm more a Glasgow person. Even when I lived in Falkirk, which is pretty much smack bang in the middle of Edinburgh or Glasgow, it was just as easy to go to either. It would usually be Glasgow. I just don't like the shopping in Edinburgh much. I'm not keen on, I don't know what it is. There's just like a bit of an uppity air about people in Edinburgh. I don't want to cast aspersions. I know that not everybody's the same, but I've came across quite a few people in Edinburgh who think they're better than everybody else. whereas Glasgow is a much friendlier city. Anybody will talk to anybody in Glasgow. So yeah, and plus Edinburgh is a nightmare for parking. I remember years ago when I was little going into Edinburgh with mum and dad, and parking was difficult to find, and when you did find it, it was extortionate. So yeah, I would much rather go to Glasgow than Edinburgh, but Edinburgh is good for some things. It's got the Playhouse Theatre, I've seen a lot of shows there. It does the Fringe Festival, and I do like going to shows there as well. So I don't mind Edinburgh, but I would rather go to Glasgow. Right, Sally Davis has asked, what was my job in the court service? I have mentioned a few times that I used to work for the Scottish Court Service, and my job was officially a court clerk, but I wasn't in the court very often. I worked mostly the admin side of it. I did both the criminal side and the civil side. So on the civil side, I was dealing with the council a lot, putting through applications for them to try to claim back rent arrears or evict people who weren't paying, that sort of thing. And I dealt with wills and things like that. And on the crime side, I loved that. That was my favourite bit. I used to deal with like vulnerable witnesses. I would work with the procurator fiscal on vulnerable witness applications and getting things put in place for them. I worked with booking translators. And my favourite bit was I worked with the police to get warrants to raid people's houses for one reason or another. And when I was doing that, I would sort of be the middleman, if you like, between the police and the sheriff. I would find out when a sheriff was free. I would take the police officer into the sheriff chambers and basically just stand there while they did their thing. And if they had any questions to ask me, I would answer. But I was sort of like a go-between. I dealt with fines, people paying fines, mostly for like getting caught speeding, that sort of thing. And back then we had to physically endorse the driving licence because that was when paper licences were in place. So we actually had to write the points on the licence, things like that. And I answered calls and basically anything. So I did have a taste of the crime and the civil side, and I loved it. That was my favourite job out of all the jobs I've had, which there have been a few. That was my favourite job, but unfortunately I had to leave because I got ill, and that's when I ended up in the wheelchair. Liz Bradford has asked, first of all, do I have brothers or sisters? No, I'm an only child, and I think that's been a good thing and a bad thing. It was a good thing because I didn't have anybody to fight with, and I'm not saying I was spoiled, but it was only me that my mum and dad had to think about, so they would give me everything that they could. And I think because I was an only child, I learned to like my own company because I wasn't used to having people around me all the time. But at the same time, it also made me go out and make friends, because if I was bored of my own company, I had to actually go and seek out people to play with or talk to because I didn't have anyone in the house. I think the downside of it is that I didn't have anybody to argue with. I think that's a pro and a con. And I've not got anybody now other than my mum to be close with. I've got friends, acquaintances, but I see other people in their relationships with their brothers and sisters and do sometimes wish that I had that, so that I had someone else to talk to other than my mum or Jack or whatever. And it also means that I've not got like a lot of nieces and nephews and things like that. So yeah, there's upsides and downsides of it, I would say, but no, I don't have any brothers or sisters. Liz also asked, have I come to terms with being in the wheelchair after all this time? Yeah, I definitely have, and my life is what it is now because I'm in the wheelchair. I don't know what I would be doing now if I wasn't. At the time it was difficult because I went from working full time, I went from dancing, from being in stage shows, just looking after the girls, running about after them, to not being able to do any of that. And that was quite difficult at first. Line dancing I loved, and I couldn't do it anymore, obviously. And I did go, once I was well enough and out of hospital, I went to a couple of line dancing events for my mum, and it did get me really upset because I knew the dances but couldn't do them. So I learned just to stay away from that. And over the years, you sort of get used to it. It's a huge change in your lifestyle. But it wasn't just a change for me, it was a change for Jack, it was a change for the girls, for my mum and dad, everybody. Everybody had to come to terms with me being in the wheelchair, not just me. And I think we all got through it together, to be honest. There were times that, you know, if one of us was down, the others would pick us up, and we've just gone on like that. So yeah, I have came to terms with being in the wheelchair. I think what annoys me more now is the fatigue that I'm left with, because that's the reason that I can't work. And it does frustrate me that I can't go out normal walks with Jack and the dogs. It frustrates me that I'm a lot heavier than I should be because I can't do the same amount of exercise, which isn't really the chair's fault, it's more my fatigue's fault, because if I do like wheelchair aerobics or yoga or anything like that, it just tires me out. But yeah, I've definitely came to terms with being in the wheelchair. I think, to be honest, the worst thing about my illness, apart from the fatigue, is losing my teeth. If anybody's been joined me in the last year or so and just known me without teeth, when I first started this channel, I did have teeth, but they weren't real, they were false teeth, and that's because my illness made all my teeth crumble and fall out. And the reason I don't wear my teeth now is they couldn't get them to fit me. They just kept falling out, they would make me gag, and it got to the stage, I think during the pandemic, I started not putting them in because I could wear a mask when I went out anywhere. And I just learned to embrace it from there. Just thought, well, you know what, it's easier for me. My mouth was getting so sore when I was putting the teeth in and out all the time because I had to use the adhesive. And I thought, you know what, I'm just not going to do it anymore. So that's the worst part of my illness, not the wheelchair. And finally, Liz asked, do the kids help around the house? If they're pushed and shoved and nagged into it, yes. The kids' role basically is to keep their own room tidy, and if they cook or do anything in the kitchen, they tidy up after themselves. Other than that, I don't make them do too much around the house. Jack helps out, I do what I can. We've got 4 dogs, so we know the house, it's never 100% clean. Even if we went and scrubbed it from top to bottom, an hour later it would be dirty again. So we don't worry too much about what the house looks like. We enjoy our lives, and if we've got visitors coming, we'll give it a good spruce up, but other than that, we're not fussed. I don't like an untidy house, which is why I make them tidy their room, but as far as cleanliness goes, as long as the kitchen worktops are clean, I don't care. So yes and no, they help by doing the chores that they're asked to do, and if I really ask them to do something, then they will. And Abby, since Adam moved in, they do their own washing as well, so I'm not having to do their washing and drying of clothes. Next question was from FIFA. I think your name's Peter, but I'm not 100% sure. On YouTube you are FIFA, and you said, could you explain what happened with the Tesco driver? I will try to find that video and link it for you. I have mentioned a couple of times that I don't go to Tesco now unless I really have to, because one of the delivery drivers was incredibly nasty to me. He was horrible. Basically, he came, he couldn't find the house, and that was my fault because I didn't answer the phone. But I wasn't getting a signal on my phone, so I couldn't answer it. I didn't know he was phoning me. So when he eventually got here, but he's not the only one, you know, we were getting deliveries at that time from lots of different places, and they all found it. And yeah, because of where the house is, it's kind of up a drive and like behind other things. It is hard to find, but other people manage it. You just have to ask people. So that was his first annoyance. And then I came to the back door and I said, oh, watch your feet, because Willa, one of our dogs, has got an awful habit of going down the steps at the back door and pooping and then coming back in. When she does that, I obviously can't go down the steps to pick it up. So, and if the girls are there and I know about it, I'll get them to do it, but I hadn't noticed she'd done it. So he came to the door and I went, oh, watch your feet. And his face was like thunder. It was horrible. So he went out to the van and he came upstairs and he's dumping the trays on the floor in the utility room, not even in the kitchen. And I said to him, I'm sorry, but I'm not liking your attitude. And he really started, I can't remember the whole conversation now, but he started ranting at me, really ranting at me, to the extent that Abby wondered what was going on. She came, I had closed the kitchen door so the dogs couldn't get in, so she came and poked her head through the door and was like, what's going on? And I went, it's just this idiot, he's having a go at me. And so Abby got upset, and so I decided to get my camera out and start filming him. Don't you film me! And he basically told me that I was lucky he was bringing my shopping in. If I wasn't in a wheelchair, he wouldn't have done that. And I'm like, all right, okay, so we're going to bring my disability into this now, are we? It was horrible. It was so nasty to me. I was so upset. And I said to him, look, I'm going to be reporting you as soon as you leave. And he left, and as he reversed out the drive, it's quite funny now, but it wasn't at the time, he took half my fence with him. He actually bashed into the fence and tore down some of the fence, but just kept going. And I was raging. So I phoned Tesco, I put in a complaint, they could tell that I was upset, and they said that it would be looked into and somebody would get back to me, and they never did. And I kept trying to phone them for an update, and I didn't get anywhere. I emailed them and they never responded. It was shocking. So that is the reason I don't go to Tesco now unless I really, really, really have to. But that is the condensed version, so I will try to find the video, because I did put it up on my channel because I wanted people to know what the service was like. Sure, FIFA had another question. I've not written it down, but I'm sure he also asked what job does Adam do? And the reason I remembered that is because he's a delivery driver for Asda. And when I told him about what happened at Tesco, that basically was a good way for him to think of what not to do. He is looking for another job. He's hopefully getting a job soon in construction, but the Asda job's just to tide him over at the moment. Hannah Sweeney asked, how did I start YouTube? Well, originally, this channel was a Slimming World channel, because when I went on Slimming World, I watched loads of people on YouTube who did Slimming World. I got some great tips and information, some great meal ideas and inspiration. Basically, there was a lot of people that I watched, and I thought, I want to do that. And the thing that took me so long to do it was my teeth, because I knew I would have to put my teeth in to do it, and it was a whole rigmarole. So I didn't do it, and I wanted to do it, and then eventually I said stuff it and decided to do it. So when it first started, this channel was a Slimming World channel, and I've still got some of the Slimming World followers from back then to this day, so thank you so much for sticking with me. I meant to look to see when it was it 5 years ago maybe that I started? 5, 6 years? But I changed from Slimming World to keto, and back to Slimming World, and then calorie counting. I did loads of sort of eating things over the years, and I discovered that as much as I loved watching the people for diets and things like that, it wasn't really the content that I wanted to put out there. I was more interested in vlogging, basically. My family life, the dogs, the kids, what we get up to, hauls, that sort of thing. So over the years, my channel has gradually changed to what it is. I did have a craft channel as well, which I've stopped doing now, and I was intending to put up craft videos here, but I've just not had time recently. Hopefully I will get more put up, but I do show you the different crafts and things that I make. But that is how it started, as a Slimming World channel. Now, my last set of questions is from one person, and that's a lovely Kathy, who is Clover Thistles here on YouTube. I mentioned her at the beginning when I said about what books that I read, and Kathy has given me quite a few questions, which is good. So first of all, she asked, what is my favourite music? Pretty much everything. I have got such a wide range of music that I like. It's probably easier to tell you what I don't like. I don't like dance music. I don't like rave music, you know, the boom, 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 boom. Ooh, 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 ooh. Don't like that. I don't like classical music or opera, that sort of thing. But I like songs with a tune and good lyrics that I can sing along to. When I was growing up, when I was tiny, Wham were my favourite ever band. Loved George Michael, thought he was amazing. I was devastated when Wham split up, absolutely devastated. And to be honest, I never really liked George Michael when he went solo. I only liked him when he was in Wham. And when Wham broke up, or maybe slightly before that, I really got into Wet Wet Wet, and they're a good Scottish band. Loved Wet 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 for years and years, went to loads of their concerts. Marty Pellow was my absolute idol. I just adored him. I thought he was amazing. And yeah, I think they were definitely my favourite bands when I was growing up. Nowadays, I really like bands that Jack's got me into, like the Foo Fighters, and who else has he got me into? Oh, loads of different stuff. Jack listens to a lot of rock, and I've got into a lot of that as well. I also love country music because, well, not because I was a line dancer. I think I got interested in line dancing because I loved country music. But nowadays, line dancing's more pop than country, but I love country music. Like I say, anything with really touching lyrics that you can relate to, that you can sing out to. I love Kirsty MacColl, loved her music. She sadly passed away far too young. Musicals, love musicals, musical theatre, so any musical tunes, love the music from Les Mis, from the Rocky Horror Show, just all of that stuff, love it. So I've got a very wide range of favourite music. I wouldn't say I've got a favourite band as such just now. We've seen the Stereophonics a couple of times, like them. I would love to see Lewis Capaldi. I think he's brilliant, I think he's hilarious. I like how down to earth he is. He's so honest and open about his life and his struggles. He also struggles with his weight, like me. He struggles with his mental health, like me. And he, I think, is a good inspiration to tell you that, you know, it doesn't matter what you look like or how you feel inside. You need to pursue your dreams. And I love that. So hopefully that's answered that question for you, Kathy. She's also asked, what is my favourite film? Now, it's really strange because it was last week that the film popped into my mind and thought, oh, I love that film. I really need to see if I can get it on Prime or DVD or whatever. And that is The Green Mile. Now, I read the books. It was like mini novellas that Stephen King wrote way back. I was at high school, I think, and I loved reading them because it was tiny books and you just read them one at a time. Really liked it. And then when it was brought out as a film, oh God, it really touched me. And it was something we were watching last week, I can't remember what it was, and it had the big guy that was basically on death row for a crime, who was in whatever it was I was watching. I was like, oh, The Green Mile, Tom Hanks is in it as well. And the big guy that was accused of the crime is sadly no longer with us either. He died way too young. So yeah, that is definitely one of my favourite films. Other than that, you know I love Christmas movies. Elf, love it, absolutely love it. But there's quite a few films that I'll watch over and over again. The Lost Boys is one, also the Rocky Horror Show, different, like I like musical movies as well as classical movies. I do like rom-coms. I think the only type of movie I don't really like is historical things, like period drama type things. I don't particularly like them, but other than that, I love watching a film. She also asked, now this I think has to be one of my favourite questions of them all. What is my biggest regret? Wow. As, was it Frank Sinatra that sang, regrets? I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. Is that the right words? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, regrets. My main regret, and it's not really a regret because if I had done it, my life wouldn't be what it is now. A bit Back to the Future-ish. If I could go back in time and change one thing, it would be I would not listen to the careers advisor at high school, because I always wanted to be a vet or a vet nurse. I realised that I wasn't smart enough to be a vet. There was no way I was getting the grades. So I wanted to be a vet nurse. When I told the careers advisor that at high school, they basically told me, you've got no chance. There's so few places, so many people wanting to do it. You've got no chance. There's no point in going for it. Why don't you go and be a human nurse instead? And my mum had a nursing background. Well, she was an auxiliary nurse, or a nursing assistant as they are now, care assistant. And so I listened to the careers advisor, and that's what I did. And even when I was in Dundee doing my nursing degree, I still had regrets that I wasn't doing vet nursing, and I even went to the local vet and asked if they had any spaces for volunteers and things like that. They didn't, and I didn't take it any further, but that is the one thing that I do regret. If I had gone into working with animals rather than people, no offence, but most of the time I'd rather be around my dogs than people, then I don't think I would have had as many jobs, because I never really settled in a career all through my life until I got to the court service. And I think that's why nothing was hitting the spot for me like working with animals would have. But if I had done that, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. So it's a regret, but not really. Next question. If I won the lottery, would I stay in Scotland? Another really good question. If you'd asked me that maybe a year or so ago, I would have said undoubtedly yes. But right now, I try not to talk about politics on this channel, but I hate the way the country's being run. The SNP, in my mind, are destroying the country, and if I won the lottery, I think we would move. But we would definitely still have a house here for like holidays and things like that. Probably not this house, or we might knock this house down and rebuild here, because we love the area and things. It's just the house is older and not perfect. But I've got a feeling we would move. We almost moved years ago. We almost emigrated to Australia, and things happened and it didn't turn out, which is a good thing, because if I'd got ill like this over there, there's no way we could have afforded it. You know, I've had to rely on the NHS here, which has been terrible, but it's good at the same time. I wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for the NHS or certain parts of it. So I think we would probably move somewhere, or we would live here but have a holiday home somewhere. We definitely wouldn't be here 100% of the time. If we were to stay in the UK, I would probably go to Wales. I love Wales. But other than that, I would probably move somewhere a bit sunnier. What books do I read? I've already covered that one. And finally, what is my favourite ice cream flavour? Well, I'm not a huge ice cream fan. I don't like Mr. Whippy ice cream, you know, the soft ice cream that goes up in the curl. I don't like that. I don't mind vanilla ice cream as long as it's like really creamy. If I do have ice cream, it will usually be from a proper like ice cream parlour shop. There's two in Helensburgh, there's Dino's and Vanilla's, and they do good ice creams. And the reason I like them is they're handmade, and they're made with whatever the main flavour is. So I love their tablet, Scottish tablet ice cream, and they're big chunks of Scottish tablet, which if you don't know what that is, it's a bit like fudge but harder. So there's big chunks of that through it. I do like sorbet because it's really strong and fruity, but generally I'm not an ice cream person. If I had the choice between ice cream and chocolate, I would take chocolate every time. My favourite flavour of chocolate, everybody together, 1, 2, 3, orange! Love orange chocolate. I do like mint chocolate as well. The Twirl has now came out in a limited edition mint, and it is delicious. But yes, love orange chocolate. So, that is all of my questions. Hopefully I've answered them all okay for you. Hopefully I've not havered on too long. How long have I been? 35 minutes, I'll try and cut it down. If there's anything that I haven't answered, if I've missed a question, I apologise. Sometimes YouTube hides comments. So if I've missed any, please put them in the comments below, or if you've thought of any while I've been talking, put them in the comments below and I'll answer them in other videos. I don't think I'll do another proper Q&A for a while, but if you've got a question, I can answer it in any of my vlogs, that's not a problem. I will try to link the delivery driver, the Tesco saga video, and also for anyone who doesn't know about my illness, I've got a couple of videos on that I'll link for you as well. And that is that. And until the end there, the dogs didn't bark, which is amazing. So thank you for watching, everybody. Like I say, please talk to me in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. It's not always this type of video I do vlogs, I do hauls, I do crafts, I do everything. If you have enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button for me. Let me know you like this sort of chatty video, and I'll see you in our next one. Thanks everyone. Bye!